All right. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Thank you. It is then answer the first time. It is 6:32 and the special call meeting for mayor and council for June 22nd is called to order. Ms. Hood, can we have a roll call, please?
Roll call for June 22nd, 2023 special call meeting. Mayor Butler,
Present.
Councilmember James,
Present.
Councilmember Anton, Councilmember Gutierrez,
Present.
Councilmember Akins Wells. Here. Councilmember Mears. Mayor and council, you have a quorum.
Excellent, thank you. So we are here for the first of our public hearing reading for the fiscal year 24, in our financial budget ordinance. Background and history. Public hearing for a fiscal year 24 proposed budget is the first reading. The proposed funded dollar amount for the fiscal year 24 budget is $37,624,374. The full fiscal year 24 budget can be viewed on the City of Forest Park's website by clicking the link. And so this is a public hearing, and so I'm going to ask for a motion to recess the special called meeting and open up the public hearing for the first reading.
So moved.
That was Councilwoman James. Is there a second? That was Councilwoman Wells. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. So per our charter with our public hearings, 10 minutes is allotted per side. So if you are in favor of or wanted to speak on the budget, you have 10 minutes and that's in its totality. And then if you wanted to speak against or in opposition of any portion of the budget, you also would be allotted 10 minutes. And so I'm going to ask if there's anyone that would want to speak in favor of or on the budget. You may line up at the podium now. All right, not having anyone line up. Is there anyone who wanted to speak against or in opposition of any portion of the budget? You may line up at the podium now. All right, not having anyone line up, I'm going to ask for a motion to close.
Madam Mayor, before you close the hearings, my understanding that we have a presentation on the insurance piece, and since that's connected with the budget, my recommendation is you do that as part of the hearing.
Okay, and is that Sterling, Seacrest, and Pritchard?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so will the representative from Sterling, Seacrest, and Pritchard come to the podium?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank you. Good evening.
Wait, before you get
everybody.
started, we're going to have Ms. Lewis do the formal introduction.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, and thank y'all for letting us talk tonight. And just a way of transparency, our city manager, Mr. Clark, has presented, he would like us to present all of our renewals to the mayor and council for your review. So we've already done the medical, dental, and the vision, and Mr. Tony Berger is here from Sterling, Seacrest, and Pritchard to present our property and casualty renewal information for your review.
Thank you so much. You have the floor, sir.
Again, good evening. I'm sorry.
Good evening.
I put a packet out. I hope all of you have it in front of you from us. If you would, I wanted to just kind of summarize. The first page is basically a summary of the effect of the renewal pricing once we went into the marketplace. And what you're seeing is that the expiring program pricing was a little over $622,000. The renewal pricing is $759,000, or a 22% increase in premium. A lot of that will be explained by exposure. When I say exposure, property value increases, workers' compensation payroll increases, all have an effect on the data. So from a big picture standpoint, here is the renewal program based on all of the coverages: property, casualty, directors and officers, workers' compensation programs that we have in place. Any question at all about any of these coverages?
So you're on the first page, on page 4, correct?
Yes, ma'am. I just took this from our, you won't find the pages in order because I took it from our proposal. It's page 4.
Any questions or comments, Councilwoman? Are you done with your presentation?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay, I'll let you continue.
No, ma'am. The second page, or call it page 5, gives you an idea of some of the changes in values that we had on the program, and the biggest being our property in terms of values on the property, almost a 35% increase in that area, 14% increase in payroll. We're looking into the values on many of our buildings. We discussed that yesterday to make sure that we're all comfortable that they are being properly insured on a replacement cost basis and that we're not over-insuring the buildings. It may involve getting some appraisals done, but we just want to make sure we've got the right values. Any question on the?
I'll open it up to the questions when you're done.
Oh, okay. Page 6 and 7 is just a highlight of the actual loss experience of the city in the last 5 years on these various insurance programs. And you can tell, particularly this year, in the automobile, about 143,000 in losses, public liability, 11, professional liability, law enforcement, nothing on employment practices liability, and property, nothing. Self-insured work comp, 124,000, and nothing on our excess work comp. So what has been a challenge for us has been in marketing the program, has been the automobile insurance and the employment practices coverage. Employment practices is coverage for sexual harassment, discrimination type claims. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But a high level look at our overall experience in the last 5 years. The next article, page 9, is simply information for you about what is going on in the commercial insurance marketplace, particularly the commercial property marketplace. You can see that the average increase across the first quarter for companies across the United States was over 20% for this first quarter. And that's primarily inflation is the main factor. So these 3 pages just give you good information about property and cyber. Page 13 is our property renewal. You'll see that we have $68 million insured. The change on this program is that we now have a 2% deductible relative to hail losses for any of our buildings with steep roofing, 1% of value of the building for flat roof buildings. And that's being caused by the catastrophic losses that we're seeing in the property insurance industry. So we're looking into the opportunity to maybe get a buy down, what's called a buy down endorsement, where we could eliminate some of the larger losses. But we're in the process of doing that now. The big change in our program is relative to our employment practices liability. We only had one company that offered renewal terms to us this year. We heavily marketed the account and ended up with the one company being willing to offer, but changing our deductible from $25,000 to $250,000. The city has never been afraid of larger deductibles. On our workers' compensation, we have $500,000 deductible, except for firemen and policemen, where it's $750,000. The next page will give you the last 5 years of loss experience of the employment practices liability. You'll note that with premiums we paid in a little over 194,000 with losses of $1.7 million.
Sorry, do we have that page? No, I don't
Yeah,
see
it's
it.
a blank.
I
Yeah,
don't
it doesn't
have-
have a page number.
I don't have that.
I'll share with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I got it.
Thank you.
I didn't find it, wasn't in there. Mike gave it to me.
So what that means in terms of, as an insurance company looks at us, right, in the past 5 years, for every dollar of premium that the insurance company has received, they paid almost $9 in losses. And that's a tough model to sell to an insurance company. So we're working on this in terms of looking into our practices in terms of loss control and prevention in the employment practices liability area. We have an insurance company that has a lot of resources available to us. So we're going to be working very closely with our city manager in this area in terms of tightening up what we're doing internally. The next area is our cyber insurance, and that's protection for us in the event of someone breaking in, getting confidential information about any of our employees, any of our citizens, any of our vendors. The change on this, which is the same situation that we had on last year's policy, is we do not have MFA, and Josh, you may want to talk about this when you get a chance. We do not have MFA authenticity at this point in the program. And because of that, what that means is if we have a loss, it's $100,000 deductible. But if it's an extortion loss, then we would pay 50% of whatever the loss might be. As soon as we get the MFA implemented throughout the city, then that will be removed. And Josh is working very hard on that. The next 3 pages, simply gives you all of the insurance markets that we took the program out to. And we really searched the marketplace, and as difficult as as difficult as the employment practices is with the retention, that absolutely was the best that could be found in the marketplace at this time. As we get our procedures in place, we've had a great year this year of no actual paid claims. We had 7 incidences reported, but no money being paid out yet. So as that continues to improve, then we'll be hoping to move to better programs and lower deductibles in the future. That is it for me, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Councilwoman James, any questions or comments?
Not at this time.
Councilman Gutierrez, any questions or comments?
No, sir, thank you.
Councilwoman Wells, any questions or comments? I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
So when you're marketing the city, how and companies, I guess, how far back are they looking at our claim history?
They generally look at 5 years.
5 years, okay.
Wanting to get, that's considered the most updated exposures. And that's why as we get one more good year under this employment practices liability, then one of the really bad years drops off.
Drops off, okay.
The future is bright for us, but we've got this year, we're gonna have to be aware of that.
Okay, thank you very much. And Mike, my other question, I think is appropriate for executive session. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Oh, Madam
Oh,
Mayor.
yes, ma'am.
So, just one question. The company that was able to offer us the employment practices liability, I know that you said there was only one that was willing to offer that. So is that company a reputable company?
Yes, ma'am. It's the company that's on the account right now.
Okay.
And they originally, they were going to non-renew the business. But we were able to talk with them a good bit when Mr. Clark came on board, talking about the success that he had in Jonesboro and the work he did there. We got them a lot more comfortable, and it went from not renewing to at least offering a program for us. So, no, this company's done a good job. They've paid claims, and I think we should be very happy with them.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Now, is there a motion to close the public hearing and reconvene into our special call meeting?
So moved.
That was Councilwoman James. Is there a second? That was Councilman Gutierrez. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, and if I understand correctly, there are some changes, Mr. Clark, that you're going to present.
Yes, ma'am.
You have the
Thank
floor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
You're welcome.
First, based upon the presentation, council members, that you just heard, it alarms me just based upon the renewal. But one thing I can assure you, I think when you guys are presented something operational that needs to be fixed, I think this is a situation that's going to take all of us. So embedded within our plan moving forward, one of the things he spoke about, the entity that decided to finally bid because we would have had no coverage. They know of the programs that I've implemented, to help mitigate some of those issues. And so over the course of the next 2 months, we'll bring before you policies just to start holding people accountable for their actions, for them wrecking our cars, something not meant to be exactly punitive. But as you can see, as we went through this report, we have a lot of claims, which means our exposure is high, and it's mostly on the automobile side, as well as some of the employment lawsuits. And just to make certain that everyone is clear as to what that means, for every one of those claims that we get, we'll have to pay $250,000. Now, I have shared with our broker that I do believe that the company can do better than that number. I know that he is going to have some additional conversations with them, and I will be talking to him myself, but we were just presented this information on yesterday. We'll try to get you a better number, but one of the things I want you guys to rest assured, we'll make certain that we change the practices, starting that with our next July meeting. The first thing we're going to implement just to help with some of these automobile claims is an accident review committee, by in which the employees, the directors will have a representative, and we'll review every accident that happens in this city. And it'll be set up on a point system so that if the employee is found not at fault, then there are no points. If they're found at fault, there are points that count towards their employment based upon the infraction. Just trying to get some of it under control. Again, it's not meant to be punitive. It's meant to cause awareness to what one car accident does to our overall insurance policy. So we'll bring that before you and a strategic plan moving forward. As it pertains to our fiscal year 2023-2024 budget, just to be transparent, there are some additional items and changes just based upon dialogue throughout this period. The first one I'll talk about for the proposal that we just heard, we've increased our property and liability insurance across the city from $137,000. I'm sorry, the increase was for $137,000. It went from $622,000 to $759,000. And this is just as a result of the various increases that you guys just heard.
I'm sorry, where is that in here?
It's spread across, so I'm doing a summation. The
Gotcha.
numbers are spread across the various departments. I believe the line item is called property and casualty insurance within the budget. In addition to that, as we stated, we mentioned this the last time, we are recommending a 5% cost of living increase across the board. It has been placed in our contingency funds for us to spread across the member departments. In addition to that, on our last meeting, I shared with you that this was to keep us from doing any reclassifications at this time. On today, procurement started working on that RFP for the pay compensation and study plan, and we hope to have that before you before the fourth quarter or third quarter of this year. In addition to that, for our Public Works Department, as we were going through the budget, we called out that there was an error in the amount of $438,000. Based upon us being able to true up that error, we were able to add the additional updates to Public Works. Number one is updating our gas pumps that are 22 years old. That amount is $42,000. In addition to that, for the Public Works Department, there is a Ford 250 4x4 for their use. This is not an administrative vehicle. That vehicle is totaled at $63,000, and that's with the full service body. In addition, just some different tools for the pickups and cars over at Public Works, as well as some additional tools for the heavy duty trucks. This increase was $138,000. However, keep in mind, we removed the $438,000 from their budget that was there, so we were still able to balance there. And all of these additions that we're calling out are within our capital projects budget. In addition to that, for our fire department, we were able to outfit them with 3 additional pickup trucks. The issue there is with their equipment, it is sometimes hard for them to put it in the back of a Tahoe when they're out on the scene. So this is just a new and cheaper way for them to still do their services over there. These 3 pickup trucks were $60,000, including the outfitting. It was $180,000. This is a $180,000 increase from what we presented to you at our our budget session of $505,000. And finally, the last addition to this budget, as we stated in the last meeting, Councilwoman James had 4 additional events that were added for a total of $10,000. And the departmental budget is still under $3,210. Those 4 events were only $2,500 a piece for each of those events. That is your fiscal year 23-24 budget that we are proposing. This budget is $37,000, and we still have a net surplus of $602,000 as we reevaluate this budget in 6 months. I'm sorry, did I say 37,000?
Yes, you
My
did.
apologies. $37 million that we've appropriated for this budget. This budget is not just a document for us. It will serve as a guide to lead us forward with fiscal responsibility, operational efficiency, and tightening our belts as to the way in which we do business each and every day. As you know, we continue to preach this revenue recovery efforts. That means all eyes from all department directors are on every penny that goes out of the city, as well as the city manager looking and reviewing every last thing that we pay out in this city, just to try to bring back some dollars that we may not be accounting for. So that is our budget, and we are here, and staff is here to answer any questions that any of our governing body members may have.
Thank you, Councilwoman James. Questions or comments?
Yes, so, excuse me, just want to speak a little bit about the 5% across the board increase. Can you, kind of, I mean, I understand that you're saying it's a cost of living increase. I know that part of the conversation that we've had in the past is the amount of, the difference between the highest paid employee and the lowest paid employee in our city. And so across the board, 5% increase, just as an example, someone making 20,000 and someone making 100,000, that's a huge difference. So can you speak to the 5% and how you feel that that's fair to give a complete 5% across the board?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. James. I will try to answer that question. So what I've seen, typically, your compensation document is based upon steps and grades. Each step is based upon a percentage change across the organization, from your lowest paid employee to your highest paid employee. You would have different steps. The steps typically equate to years of service, and your different steps across the grades equate to percentages. And so for us, while we recognize that a 5% increase varies based upon the dollar amount that someone is paid, but also I would say that the job requirements differ based upon what that salary is. You know, there is no right or wrong answer. I've seen it done several different ways, but just to be equitable, our recommendation, and mine will always be a percentage. However, I'm happy for whatever the pleasure of this board is, but just know the recommendation for this was to give us an opportunity to really reevaluate some of our salaries. You know, I've shared with mayor and council some of the things that I found just in my few weeks here relative to how salaries and increases were provided. Some of it is, I must say, is alarming to me, that individuals, especially directors, had the opportunity to hire individuals at rates that just they wanted to, based upon a mid, medium, or a high. And so to fix some of that, before I gave any additional raises, my commitment to this governing body was to study all of it, to make certain that every time I presented you something relative to a salary, it was equitable across the organization, from the lowest employee to the highest employee, based upon what those job responsibilities and functions are. I know, Ms. James, we've had this conversation about your feeling relative to a specific dollar number. We just want to make certain that, one, with the big vision that each of you have, the big vision and ideas that each of you have, we want to make certain that we have the big visionary employees. to keep that up. So instead of us saying no increases, my recommendation was for 5%, so that we're still continuing to raise their salary to be aligned with the market, but then bringing back to you a full comprehensive report that says this is where we fare it in the market. In addition to that, I'm not only looking through this study for ensuring that our rates are equitable across the region or we're in line with what other municipalities are paying. I'm looking for a complex system to come out of this so that instead of us just picking numbers for hiring, which is stopped, I'll say that it is stopped, we're able to look at it for the entire organization based upon the creation of this pay scale, pay classification system.
Any other questions or comments? Councilwoman James, anything else?
No.
Councilman Gutierrez? Councilwoman Wells?
Well, I kind of think Councilwoman Jane, we were on the same, we did discuss, the minimum, because we had employees here for like 30, 40 years that are just now making $17. And I agree, I trust you. And I do feel like some of our employees deserve a raise, some of them. However, that's why I will always be with the merit system. And giving them a raise based on their performance. But then too, I understand what you said when we spoke about that. Well, what if they have a supervisor who don't actually like them and they don't get what they deserve? So I see the pros and cons, but whatever you suggest, I agree with it.
Ms. Wells, one of the things I will share, if we have an employee out of the north of 250 employees with every one of our directors sitting here, if we have an employee that is not working and not doing that job, I'm looking at the director, why are you not doing your job, to ensure that first you set the expectation of that job. Second, you measure that employee, not just annually, but on a day-to-day basis, and you lay out the path forward. If there is a deficiency, I'm looking at the directors that you guys have put in charge to ensure that those deficiencies are fixed. So there will be no room for us to have any employees that are not carrying their weight. Because if we do, I'm looking to the supervisor to see what are you doing to fix that.
Start looking.
All right. Now, is there a motion to recess the special call meeting and enter into executive session for personnel litigation, real estate and legal matters?
So moved.
Councilwoman James, is there a second? That's Councilman Gutierrez. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you. We shall return. All right, thank you all for your patience. Is there a motion to adjourn the executive session and reconvene into our special called meeting?
So move.
That was Councilwoman James. Is there a second?
Second.
That was Councilwoman Wells. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. Oh, all right, that is it. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
That was Councilwoman James. Is there a second? Oh, this is yours. That was Councilman Gutierrez. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you.